you like to begin by introducing yourselves and maybe just share a little bit about how you came to the Little Sisters?
Yeah, I am Sister Rita Mary. I joined the congregation 1966, made my profession in 70, and here I am now. Yeah, I come from India. I did my novitiate in Bangalore. Then the final I went to Lattu, our mother house. 1977 I made my final profession.
And where have you served? What countries?
After my final profession, I went to Hong Kong. I stayed in that province, Hong Kong and Malaysia, 8 to 10 years. Then from there I went to Samoa. Then from there I went to Kalgoorlie, to India. Then back to Samoa. Then here I am in New Zealand. That's the life story of mine. Okay? Good.
Sister Mary Lutz, originally from Sri Lanka, and I felt God was calling me at the age of 13, so was trying to discern with Apostolic Carmelite and then from the cloister, and then as my father was against my call, so I just postponed it, thinking until I get it's a cultural thing, until I get his blessings. So I start working, and it was a mysterious thing in a sense of the time I met the Little Sisters. I who was waiting for Father's blessing, when I met the Little Sisters for the first time, I just felt so much at home. I couldn't wait anymore for his blessings or anything. So I decided, that time I was already 25, so I joined the sisters. I always thought, that discerning period which delayed by Dad's objection led me to the right congregation, as I'm really happy after nearly 33 years.
Okay, well, my name is Sister Maria Ann. I'm from the United States, Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I entered. I did my novitiate in Queens, New York. Then after that, stayed in the United States for a short while, then to Canada, then to France for my final profession. Then I stayed in France for a year or two, and then I went to North Africa, to Algeria, and stayed there for a few years. Then I went to the Brazzaville, Republic of the Congo, stayed there for quite a long time. Back to the US, then back to Brazzaville, and then to Malta, and then to Dunedin in 2018. So I was not discerning religious life at all. Had never even thought about it. But when I started working, I was an employee at Little Sisters of the Poor. I was a caregiver, and I was trying to get myself through the university. And as I was working there, I just felt very, very drawn, especially to the care of the aged. And when I read the biography of our Mother Foundress, St. John Jugan, I was very impressed by her holiness and the gift of herself. So through that I discerned the Lord was actually calling me to give my life to Him, but I had never thought of it before. And it was a bit of a struggle, accepting that. Yeah. But I did, of course, accepted it, and so I was just 19 when I entered, and been here ever since.
My name's Sister Marguerite. I come from Invercargill down in Southland. I entered the congregation as I left school. I'd always felt the call of the Lord in my heart for religious life. I was here in Dunedin as a postulant, and then I went over to Sydney for a novitiate. After my first profession, I came back to Auckland and also worked in a couple of the different places in Sydney, worked for a final profession at Latua. And after Latua, after my final vows, that was in 1960, I came back to Sydney. And I worked in Australia at the different homes there for a good number of years. Then I came back here, actually came back to Dunedin, to Andy Bay. and it was lovely to come back to the old people. And from there, I went back. Where did I go to from there? I went back to Australia. In fact, I went back to look after the old priests. I loved that work. And from there, I came back to Auckland. And then I came back down here, and I went to Melbourne and Perth, and back I came again. So I've really worked around Australia and New Zealand. But I have a great love for the old people, and I think we have a very, very beautiful vocation. And I love that little saying we heard of our Foundress today, knock, knock at the gate of heaven for souls. It's beautiful, and it's something that touches the heart of our residents, and we ask them to offer their sufferings to knock for souls. It gives them an outlook on life and why they're suffering and how their suffering can become redemptive. I think our work is very beautiful. Yeah.
I'm Sister Maria Elispeta. I'm from Samoa. Before I joined the sisters, I was going to get married. I was proposed by to befriend and have a family. So anyway, my family agreed, but was up to me whether I'd be happy or not happy. It's up to me. Because when I was in school, the sisters' school, SMSM, there I saw the sisters. They dressed up as beautifully in religious uniform, habit. And I said to myself, oh, aren't they beautiful? I would like to be like them too, one day. So all that was in my mind. One of the girl that I knew very much, all of a sudden she disappeared. I asked her, where is she? And they said, oh, she's gone to a convent somewhere around here in Auckland. So I asked the sister, where is this convent? She said, it's just down the road near the harbour bridge. I said, can you take me there one day? I met the Mother Superior, and she told me to come every weekend. At that same time, preparing for the marriage. So I rang my father and my parents, and I said, oh, I don't want to get married. And then they said again to me, I want to join the religious life. But anyway, the family was so concerned about this arrangement, was already prepared, So he came, the poor man, and I said, oh. I said, I'm going to ring him to come here. Come. He came home, and he dressed up nicely, thinking we might go out. Because he's not a Catholic. I said, I'm sorry, yeah. That's your ring, you can give out and give to somebody who will be your future. So that was it.
What is something that you admire about your Foundress, Sister Mary Lourdes? What's something you admire about Jean Jugan?
Actually, what struck me was, as a young lady, her humility. Also, I was, given the explanation of, because it was, it struck me, Little Sisters of the Poor. So the sister who was, taking me around, she was explaining the little is that humility of Jesus, which, and the sister being a consecrated sister to her, and then the poor, as we were listening yesterday to, that, to be poor. It's good to be poor, to have nothing, but to wait all from God, that confidence. So what really struck me was on that 3 words, was that littleness, which I was really drawn, in a sense, like reading her life. It's like, the first thing came out to me was that injustice done to the Foundress by the congregation, so much. Nobody knew that she was to be Foundress. And then she says, God is calling me for a work not yet founded. And then she being that work unknown. So she became, so also the year I joined was also the beatification of St. John again. So which really struck me. So I really admire her humility, which I trying to imitate Jesus in the way Jan was led.
Sister Maria, and who are the poor for your community? What poor do you work with?
Well, obviously we work with the elderly. Our mission has always been from the beginning. The first poor woman John Juban picked up was an elderly poor woman. But that poverty, of course, it is of course financial, we look at that. But as I mentioned to you the other day, in many of our Western societies, the elderly are marginalized just by the fact that they're old. So there's as a little videotape that was done by the congregation a few years back said, no one is as poor as a poor old person, because they're the last ones to be thought of. There's often things available for the younger people and this and that, but a poor older person is often, they're often pushed aside. And here in New Zealand, they're placed in rest homes, very often against their own will, And so I think that the fact that they are marginalized, that they are pushed aside, means, as Mother was just saying, we need to really reach out to them and be at their service and show them how much we love them and respect them and appreciate them, and they're not forgotten.
And Sister Marguerite, you mentioned how much you love this work. I was reading about how, Jean chose to see God in every person, in the poor. Do you have any examples from your time as a sister of when you might have seen God in the poor or in the people that you work with?
Yes, well, sometimes the old people, they can be very debilitated in lots and lots of ways, or if you like, very trying, and unless you can really see Jesus in them and love them, you can't really care for them. And the old people know if you love them or if you're just looking after them. They know, they have that sense, and I've often been struck. We had this wee lady once, and she was to go to a dementia home in Invercargill, and for some reason or other it was changed and she could come back to us. And she was really a very little lady that was very lost. And she came into the home again, and there was a staff member, they were all there, but this one, she went to her and put her arms out, because that staff member was very, very good to the old people. They know if we love them, and if we don't love them, we can't really look after them. We can just care for them, but we don't really look after them. We have to feel. See, old age brings a poverty with it, even just the age itself. They're losing everything. They're losing their powers to walk and to think and to, all normal things of life. That's a great, great poverty. So if they're not understood in that, it's, it's lovely to be able to do that.